Hi, this is Mark with QuicksVenture.com. In this video, we're going to be discussing the Raspberry Pi and how you can use it with XBMC by using the RASPBMC distribution from RASPBMC.com. If you've ever used Crystal Ubuntu on an Apple TV first generation, you're already familiar with Sam from STM Labs and his great work on making XBMC run on small, cheap devices. He's brought some of that magic to the Raspberry Pi now, and it's up to release candidate number 4. I've had my Raspberry Pi for about 2 months now, and to be honest, I haven't been all that excited about it. I was very excited when I got it, and I played with it for a few days, and at the time, you really couldn't do a whole lot with it. XBMC was not running very well, and even the earlier versions of RASPBMC were relatively slow and pretty clunky. In fact, I still suffer from some pretty severe USB driver problems. I have multiple hubs, and some of them powered, some of them not, and in various configurations, each one has its own unique quirks. Some research has told me that the USB driver on the Broadcom system on a chip that drives the entire Raspberry Pi, there are some issues with that driver, and that there is an ongoing process to try and build a better driver. Hopefully that works out. Now, what I have found is that if you are running into issues with your Raspberry Pi, one of the best things you can do is reduce the number of USB-attached devices. The network adapter on board is connected to the system via USB, so you want to use as few peripherals as possible. In my case, when I took my Raspberry Pi and plugged it into a TV using just HDMI, a network adapter, power, and an Ethernet connection, I had an excellent experience with XBMC. I also had an IR receiver plugged in so that I could use a remote control. But when you start adding things like keyboards and mice, you start to overload that USB bus, and the power requirements tend to make the Raspberry Pi a bit unstable. So as a very long-winded introduction, let's take a look at the device itself. I'm sure you've seen numerous pictures and probably already seen videos, so we'll keep this short. You have HDMI, a LAN adapter. It's a 10100 LAN adapter that is actually just connected to the USB bus on the Raspberry Pi itself. There is another set of USB 2 adapters. You have an analog audio port and an analog video port, along with some things called GPIO headers. I'm not totally sure what they are, but the internet insists that they are there for expansion. Finally, on the back, there is a standard SD card reader, and I'm using a micro SD adapter so that I can use a micro SD card. I have run the RASPBMC installer from RASPBMC.com. It takes about all of 5 minutes to format your SD card in a configuration that is ready to download all the rest of the files used by RASPBMC. RASPBMC is a custom distribution that is designed to be very small and do nothing but run XBMC on your Raspberry Pi. And that's different from things like Raspbian, because Raspbian is designed to be a full desktop experience for your Raspberry Pi. RASPBMC, on the other hand, does not have any other interface except for XBMC on the front end. You can still SSH in, and I believe it's running, or rather, when you SSH into your RASPBMC, you can run commands and install new software. So it's relatively versatile. In fact, I think the driver support may be slightly better on RASPBMC than it is on regular Raspbian. Finally, you plug in power, which is a micro USB connector. This is the smallest of the 3 USB connections. And immediately, you'll be presented with a rainbow picture on the screen of whatever TV or monitor you're attached to. As you start RASPBMC for the first time, you'll have a lot of the regular Linux startup information scrolling across the screen. And it's actually going to take about 15 minutes to install XBMC and all of its dependencies as you go through the startup process. Subsequent boots will take a whole lot less time, but I'm going to go ahead and just get to the point where this is showing that it is connecting to the internet and downloading all of the software, and then sign off, and we'll come back in a subsequent video to show you how RASPBMC release candidate number 4 works on a Raspberry Pi. So I hope you have learned something from this, and we'll be right back with more information.